you wrote there's no must-have guy in the coaching market and that Josh McDaniels may stay. Now, it seems to me, boy, we've got some interesting opportunities here. Why do you so strongly believe that with the New England coordinator?
Well, Colin, I've always believed that the only way that Josh McDaniels is going to go to anywhere is that he's going to only go if he feels he has a good chance to win and if he feels there's a quarterback there that he thinks he can win with.
Okay.
And look, Josh McDaniels is the kind of guy who basically looks at quarterbacks and he says, now, I'm not just saying, can this quarterback be a competitive guy who is the, 12th, 15th, 20th guy in the league. He wants to know if that quarterback can be compared to the best ones. So therefore, when I look at all of these openings, unless he were to watch some tape and he were to say, hey, I think Mitch Trubisky can be Andrew Luck, and Mitch Trubisky is coming out, and I could get the San Francisco job and I could bring in a general manager who I wanted in San Francisco, then, okay, so then maybe he considers doing this. And again, I'm not trying to make this seem, I don't know what McDaniels is going to do. I'm just saying that if you were working for Bill Belichick, if you were 40 years old, and if you had the kind of simpatico with Tom Brady, that a 40-year-old guy and he's 39, and you basically answer each other's sentences, well, the only way I would leave that is if there was a great opportunity. And so I think that's the only way he'll leave New England.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about this morning. If I was San Francisco and said, okay, I'll take Mike Lombardi, Josh McDaniels, and Jimmy Garoppolo and bring in the New England culture. You talked to Jed York yesterday. Do you think that's something he'd listen to?
Oh, of course. I mean, but the question is, look, Colin, I am probably alone in two opinions, okay? I don't think that that Josh McDaniels is going to leave New England this year, based on the jobs that I see out there right now. And number two, I don't think Bill Belichick's trading Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay.
Now, if Jimmy Garoppolo's agent comes to Belichick and says, we absolutely will not sign anything because we want to go somewhere and be the guy opening day 2018. And so if he says that, absolutely, then I could see Bill Belichick saying, okay, let's go out and get a 1+ for Jimmy Garoppolo. But I believe if you're Bill Belichick and you've, in the last 15 years, drafted a bunch of guys from Rohan Davey to Ryan Mallett to Jimmy Garoppolo to Jacoby Brissett, and you believe that there's one guy out of all those guys you drafted who you want to succeed Tom Brady, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo, well, big deal you could get a 1 and a 4 for Jimmy Garoppolo. Why would you do that? That, a quarterback of the future, is something you cannot buy. And so if I'm Belichick, and again, I haven't talked to him about it, why would you trade Garoppolo?
Well, I think you make a very good point. There's 6 job openings, 7 potentially if somebody like Sean Payton went to the Rams, which I read this morning, not saying it's true, I just read it. Now, I do say this as a qualifier. If Chuck Pagano was dismissed and you could inherit Andrew Luck, that's beachfront property in the Hamptons. You just don't get that very often in your life. I'm not asking you, I mean, just your sense on Irsay, who has been very impulsive, Peter, in his career. He's a very impulsive human being. How safe, percentage-wise, is Pagano?
I think he's 60-40 to come back. But again, you made the great point, and you said about Chuck Pagano, the reality of Chuck Pagano. He lives in a world where the owner could wake up tomorrow and say, we are vastly underachieving. It's ridiculous that we can't beat the Houston Texans with Brock Osweiler and all the other guys on offense who just are not good enough. We got a great offense, and look, we're really underachieving, so I'm going to blow it up. Now, I don't think he's going to do that. He may change Ryan Grigson, the general manager, but I would just be surprised if that was blown up. And again, I think that could possibly be a game changer. To be able to go coach Andrew Luck for 10 years,
Oh, yeah.
potentially is a really interesting prospect.
So let's just throw Sean Payton out there. My sense has been, Peter, that over the last couple of years, Sean kind of feels like maybe it's time. He's young enough to coach again. He's very respected. The league's become more offensive than it was when he became a head coach. Rams could be interested. I'm going to put the percentages up again with Sean Payton. I read this morning the Rams could be an opportunity. Your gut feeling on Payton coaching the Saints next year?
I look at the musical chairs out there and I wonder what ownership group, because understand this, Sean Payton makes, and I'm going to throw a ballpark out there, I think he and Bill Belichick, and nobody knows the exact numbers, but I think he and Bill Belichick are the highest paid coaches in football.
Okay.
I don't think Jed York wants to pay a coach $10 million a year. Stan Kroenke wouldn't mind paying a coach $10 million a year, but I don't know if the Rams think that the way to go is to get an autocratic guy who he walks into the room and everybody says, "Sir, yes, sir."
Right.
So I think the Rams, I think that is a very interesting place for Sean Payton. And to me, it is the most likely place. I don't think the Spanoses are paying a coach in San Diego all that money. And then you look at all the other jobs and look, I think for family reasons, it probably to him is going to be either New Orleans and staying one more year or going to LA. But again, I think that both he and the Saints realize that it's time. And if you look at their team right now, they're, I think, 39-41 in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's time for him to go to greener pastures. It's just the way, like Parcells always said, you know, it's always time for a coach. You know, you always know when it's time. And I think it's time for Sean Payton to go.
Peter King joining us, editor-in-chief, the great Monday Morning Quarterback, on Twitter at @SI_Peter King. Okay, so Denver has always been to me, I always call them the Pittsburgh Steelers with a mountain range. They're incredibly well run. They're stable. They had good ownership. They've got good scouting department. They draft well. Free agents are interested. But because New England and Brady and the Steelers, you know, they're kind of, you don't talk about them a lot on a national scale. I think when they have a job opening, it's a terrific job opening. Elway likes Paxton Lynch. So Gary Kubiak retires, and I just can't help but think that Kyle Shanahan wouldn't be a perfect fit with his dad, friends with Elway Consulting.
You're right about that, but I'm not sure that Elway and Shanahan and Mike Shanahan are very close anymore. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not like they're at war or anything like that in any way, shape, or form. But I don't think they have the kind of relationship that Elway had, say, with Kubiak, where, you know, they remained very close. Now, having said all that, I totally agree with you. Kyle Shanahan makes perfect sense for this team. What did Kyle Shanahan do in Atlanta? I just talked to Matt Ryan about this today. And I asked Matt Ryan, what do you like about Kyle Shanahan? One of the things he said was something I didn't really realize. He said, he looked at me when I got here and said, you know what, you're more of an athlete than people give you credit for.
Yeah.
We're going to have you make more plays on the run. And he said, that has really been a significant improvement in my ability as a quarterback. And so I think Kyle Shanahan could come into Denver and he could say either to Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, I was under the impression, Colin, that Denver would be a good landing spot for Tony Romo for 1 year. But I think John Elway feels like I'm not going to delay the inevitable. We've got too many other things to worry about here. I need to fix the offensive line. We need to coach the quarterback better. And so I don't see them as players for Tony Romo. But I also don't see this as a slam dunk for Kyle Shanahan. I'm also told that John Elway, this is not a one candidate coaching search in Denver. And I think Elway takes a while and does not immediately fall in love with Kyle Shanahan.
Peter King joining us. He's got so much good information. For the record, you talked to Jed York. And listen, since the merger, one franchise, San Francisco, has done this twice now, where they give two coaches back-to-back a year. I don't think it sends a very good message. When you talk to him about, and I don't know, I'm going to ask you here, I read a story yesterday that they had decided on Chip a month ago to fire him, so they didn't even give him a full season with Cap and Gabbert. Doesn't Jed York worry about the optics here? That they're becoming
No question.
They're becoming Cleveland with the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, who wants to go there?
Yeah, I think he understands what it looks like out there. In my opinion, that's why he talked to me last night. In as sensitive a situation as they're in, I think one of the things that the 49ers are out to do is to show people, listen, we're not the big bad franchise. You know, you can come here, you can win here, we're going to give you the support. Think of one thing about the 49ers, the only probably positive thing, because in my opinion, it is ludicrous for Chip Kelly to come to a place that has the 31st rated defense last year, no quarterback, has drafted poorly for 4 or 5 years. Now, they had a good draft last year, it looks like right now. And I think DeForest Buckner might be a really, really good front seven guy. I mean, he has had a very good year, and he's one of my candidates for Defensive Rookie of the Year. But having said all that, they've wasted a lot of draft picks. They don't have a quarterback. They got a bad defense. So what did you expect? And what difference does it make really if you're 4-12 or if you're 2-14?
Yeah.
I'd rather be 2-14 and be picking second.
Yes.
Than be picking down the line if indeed there's a great quarterback out there that you really, really want, you know, in college football. But having said all that, Jed York absolutely knows what it looks like on the outside. I would only say one thing about what I think his selling point is going to be to everybody he interviews. I think he's going to sit across from him and he's going to say, listen, we know that we've gotten it wrong twice. And the reason why you should trust that we have a good chance to get it right this time is we're willing to pay off our mistakes and totally start at ground zero. It's going to cost them about $40 million to pay off this personnel staff and the coaching staff, along with what they have left to pay Tom Sula. They're going to be in arrears for $40 million. They're willing to do that. So I think they're going to sit across from the Kyle Shanahans or the Vance Josephs, and they're going to say, listen, trust us. This is a new day in San Francisco. And then the coaching candidates are just going to have to decide, can we believe that?